This is how we're starting off. The operation's objective is to investigate the site of the attack and eliminate any hostiles. There's a concrete slab weighing down in my stomach, but I'm sure my operatives are even worse off. The Sky Ranger touched down at 1:10 hours. My agents left the airship and the mission started. We couldn't have picked a better spot to land. As soon as Rookie Chapurnov took a few steps towards the walls of the cemetery, he spotted three creatures. They were extremely stereotypical thin gray men and were doing something to a victim of the bombardment. These shells they dropped from the sky tried to drag in civilians and encase them in these green cocoons of sorts. Anyway, as soon as the aliens saw us, they retreated behind the cover of some tombstones and monuments. They seemed to have some small weapons mounted on their little hands. Looks like these hallowed grounds will see a few new corpses. Could they have picked a more symbolic site to attack? The inquisitive part of me would really like to try to make contact and see if we could communicate with those invaders. However, that's not what I've been hired to do. I instructed Rookie Chapurnov to throw this frag grenade to blow these two greys, along with a pretty monument, to smithereens. After the mission was done, the scientists seemed to have picked up on the name sectoid for this species. In hindsight, that's what I'll call them. The remaining X-ray had a good and solid cover. I'm sure a good grenade or two would see it crumble, but my units were not close enough for that. I expected the loud explosion and death of its two comrades to startle and scare the creature into retreat, so I instructed the rest of the squad to wait and fire on movement. And just as I predicted, movement came, and so did the bullets. Rookie Fournier delivered the killing blow. With Rookie Chapurnov's initial steps, he also observed this mysterious alien object. Chief Engineer Dr. Shen ran some readings, told me it would self-destruct within a few minutes, assured me it was safe to approach, and even encouraged me to collect whatever is inside for further analysis and research. I told my units to slowly inch ahead, with reaction fire ready. As we were nearing the object, we spotted three more greys, skittering around in the darkness. But they seemed oblivious to us. We lost visual soon, and I decided to use this statue to obscure line of sight. The Russian soldier fearlessly put his hands inside the white box and retrieved some yellow crystalline shards. He could see another identical object now, further along. The eggheads will be having a field day with what we bring back. Rookie Chapurnov spotted the aliens coming back and even landed a shot, but it did not kill. They scattered into retreat. I instructed Rookie Chapurnov to move ahead to see where they are right now. To my surprise, one of the hostiles was standing out in the open. Taking a shot would leave the soldier behind weak cover, but I believed the rest of the squad could mop up the trouble. He took the shot and killed another alien. This guy is something else. He needs to get promoted as soon as we get back to base. I'm with Rookie Fournier such that she could see as much of the enemy as possible. It was a tricky shot, but she stayed cool and made the kill. I'm really impressed with those under my command so far. I left the remainder of the squad on Overwatch, since the last wounded alien had good cover. But it seems to have panicked and dug itself in. Rookie Chapurnov moved in for the flank and delivered the killing blow with his sidearm. To my surprise, Central Officer Bradford informed me the satellites were picking up no more activity and that the site is secure. I hope all missions go as smoothly as this one. The squad managed to collect a few of the weapon fragments dropped from the destroyed firearms of the enemies, along with the contents of the second container. Unfortunately, it seems that these alien weapons are designed to self-destruct, just like the melt canisters. which is what the scientists call this substance now, leaving behind only these puny fragments. The Sky Ranger was back at 1:52 hours. I and almost all XCOM staff congregated on the landing pad to greet the heroes. Despite the late time, the celebrations and cheers were loud. Nobody called for order, the soldiers did a hell of a job, and everyone was proud of them. I might only have abused my position a bit to push myself to the front of the crowd and give them all not very professional hugs. I will give them another visit later that day, but I was urgently being called into the research labs. I was introduced to the head of the science division, Dr. Valen. She seemed flattered to meet me, but, truthfully told, I wasn't paying much attention to what she was saying. Maybe the excitement of the past hour was getting to me. She demonstrated to me a selection of different projects they could start working on, and I was to pick one. My first instinct was xenobiology. The faster we can figure out who those aliens are, the faster we could learn more about them and maybe put an end to this war. So, I went with weapon fragments. I don't really know how to justify this. An intuition, I suppose, that studying the weapons of the invaders would help us be more effective in combat, preventing civilian and XCOM casualties. Dr. Shen was calling me next. He gave me some spiel as well, so I just told him to provide me with one field medikit for the soldiers and excavate room for more facilities. The base is situated entirely underground, and more volume can be provided, given some time and money. Dr. Shen was advising me to construct a workshop to staff more engineers, which would allow us to build a satellite relay later. Bradford told me that one of our priorities is to launch satellites over each member nation to monitor for alien activity, so that's what I went with. I then visited the troop barracks to see what other operatives I've been provided with. There were 8 other soldiers stationed at the moment, besides the 4 sent out on the first mission. Not exactly plenty of manpower for the Earth to put their faith into winning the war, so I ordered 3 more troops to be trained. We'll need even more soon. The next point of interest for me was the aircraft hangars. We had 2 jet fighters stationed at the facility right now, Raven 1 and Raven 2, both armed with avalanche missiles. We could rearm them with Phoenix cannons, but I decided to leave them as they were. Impressive machines, capable of intercepting any UFOs on the continent, launching and landing from underground silos. We had room for 2 more fighters if need be. By 2:20 hours, I was back in the control center and ordered to start a scan for alien activity. For the rest of the day, I was watching back footage from Operation Red Hydra to study the movements and behaviors of these sectoids, as well as reading on the specifics of various equipment and gear the base had in inventory. We didn't detect anything interesting for the rest of the day, and I was feeling quite exhausted after such a busy night full of tension and stakes. So at 20:14, I decided to call it a day and left the center to rest in my quarters. I was asleep when hour 24 of the invasion hit. We had no surprises this day. The skies were awfully quiet. I was looking up at the darkness of the night, thinking how the dead silent aggressors were eyeing us from beyond the black dome around our planet. What curveballs they will hit us with next. I did take a stroll down into the research division. I wanted to get a better look at the weapon fragments we've recovered. They looked extremely delicate, but Dr. Valen assured me they were extraordinarily durable. They were clearly elements of some projectile weapons, but unlike anything I've seen. The scientists managed to establish that they are small plasma projectors, basically as simple as a plasma projector can be. They told me not to get overly excited, as it's going to be a very long time before we can reproduce them. Otherwise, my day was spent getting better acquainted with our base and its capabilities. I was walked around the various and intricate security systems, and Dr. Shen told me of some potential facilities we might be able to construct in the future. Those included additional workspaces for our scientists and engineers, satellite uplinks so we could keep contact with more satellites, and power generators to power them. He assured me that more possibilities will become possible as more research is complete. Furthermore, there are 3 natural steam vents in the vicinity of the base, and we could tap into them using powerful thermal generators, which will generate even more power for us. Perhaps a fear of what was to come, I woke up around 4:40, and a strange anxiety gripped me. I went out onto the surface again, to stare into the pitch blackness once more. Tell me your secrets. Tell me what you're planning. Damn it, the assailants are somewhere out there, and we cannot see them, scheming silently. What do they want? What are they after? I hope these trips topside aren't going to become a habit for me, as it seems they frustrate me more than they calm me down. Dr. Shen today has acquainted me with some potential plans we could have for the facility's expansion. I left the conversation already with a broadly stroked scheme. Our first priority would be to get a satellite uplink up and running, so that we could launch more of them by the end of the first month, netting us additional income. For this, we would need to not only construct them, but we would need to build a workshop, and in order to expand deeper down, we will need more power, so a generator will be up and running too. My head was already swirling with the costs of such an endeavor, so I was thinking about it for the rest of the day. Fortunately, Bradford has informed me that many countries would be interested in purchasing alien artifacts for their own research and use, or items we manufacture ourselves. Should the funding of the Council be insufficient, we could turn to them instead. This grey market is always open and available for me. I felt a bit more confident after this. Precisely at 1:46 hours, the gates of our base have opened to welcome 3 new rookies into our ranks. I got out of bed to greet them personally. I also introduced them to the rest of the operatives and took the time to talk to some of our veterans. They all seemed in high spirits and welcomed the newcomers. I told Squaddy Chapournov how impressed I was with his shooting back on Operation Red Hydra. Apparently, after his promotion, he started pursuing training in heavy weapons, and I was glad for his choice. Squaddy Fournier, on the other hand, has started training to be a sniper. Perhaps some commanders would tell their soldiers what to specialize in, but I decided to let their skills and preferences select this instead. Maybe foolish, but I'd rather keep morale high. Anyway, this nightly escapade left me unable to sleep well for the rest of the night. I turned up to the command center half asleep, and it's a good thing that our scanners didn't pick up any activity. The scanners were quiet all day. I did go down to check on the science projects chugging along. Dr. Valen told me these weapon fragments would allow them to design an extremely high-tech scope device of sorts for our soldiers. This would increase their accuracy by predicting bullet trajectory and even factoring in effects like the wind, as well as highlighting nearby sources of heat, among other functions. This would be a device never before created on Earth, thanks to our invaders. They would need some more time to finish the design, but I left the lab very hopeful. Dr. Shen informed me that the excavation would be complete past midnight, before the sun was up, and that I could give him instructions in advance on what work to perform next, so that I wouldn't have to get out of bed. I told him that, as soon as the excavation was complete, we should dig deeper to build a section of lift down, and also start work on a power generator. When I reached the command center in the morning, Dr. Shen informed me that my instructions were carried out and everything was proceeding as planned. I decided to take this opportunity and have a candid conversation with him about the invasion and all that. He told me of his family back home and how they give him the internal motivation and fortitude to keep going. Everything he does to help us is, by proxy, to protect them as well. He faces the uncertainty of the extraterrestrials with the determination of a patriot and father. To be frank, the conversation we've had inspired me to trudge through the day and complete another fairly boring shift with zero scanner activity and a large amount of paperwork I've fallen behind on that I decided to catch up with. It was 12 minutes past midnight that I was suddenly awoken by a detection from the scanner. I hurried to the command center to find simultaneous abductions in progress in 3 places around the world. We could only respond to one. I decided to go to Leeds in the UK since the local authorities would send 4 engineers to help with our work. When the workshop would be complete, this would give us the manpower necessary to construct the new satellite uplink. I decided to send out the same soldiers as previously, and I gave Rookie McKay the newly constructed medikit in case of first aid needed. The squad left the Sky Ranger at 1:36 hours our time. The site of engagement would be this wide street full of abandoned cars. The weather was as British as it could get, and the rain was so intense that the sewage system was not keeping up. The water was streaming down the asphalt like a shallow river, and the wind was booming loud. As soon as Rookie McKay left the landing site, she spotted a canister of meld. I instructed the rest of the soldiers to follow her, ready to fire. They were using the vehicles and a nearby bus station as cover. McKay soon made visual contact. There was a sectoid standing in the middle of the street, waiting for attack. It took shots off at her, but they thankfully whiffed. I don't know how the alien was so well prepared for our arrival. I wonder if it saw us land. Anyway, McKay quickly retaliated after having gotten into cover behind this trash can. She took this easy shot at the exposed target and scored the first kill of the mission. She would have to run out into the open to grab the meld, but I believed she could get back into cover of this big car before anything bad would happen. Sure enough, the movement resulted in visual contact on 2 more sectoids, but she grabbed what she could and dashed back, just as I told her. The sectoids had good cover, and the linearity of the street would make it hard for us to get closer to the enemies without getting spotted. Therefore, I decided we would wait as we were. McKay would peek out occasionally to see if they were approaching us, and they were. The units were supposed to take fire when the hostiles were out in the open, converging closer. Sure enough, they took the bait. However, Chapurnov spotted a different enemy coming from the right edge of the road instead. He quickly shredded their grey sectoid with machine gun fire. I told them to reload their weapons and wait for more trouble to come. Sure enough, Chapurnov again was the first to fire upon and kill another enemy. A short back and forth followed, involving a missed shot from McKay on the final exposed sectoid. We managed to bait it back out into the open, and it was Wilson delivering the magic bullet and ending the mission. Unfortunately, we spent a bit too long sitting in one position, and the second melt canister had self-destructed before the operation was over. Still, it's probably preferable than getting someone wounded or killed, no matter how valuable this substance might end up being. I was overjoyed again at the performance of our troops. They were back at 4:11 hours. I went out onto the landing pad once more to give them my thanks and hearty congratulations. I was slightly concerned that such whopping successful missions would get them overly confident and make them lose their edge. Still, they were trained for this. They know what is at stake. The troops went back to the barracks to celebrate with their comrades, and I went back for some sleep. What followed was more of scanning and sitting around at the command center. I completed the paperwork for the promotion of rookies McKay and Wilson. I also decided I should award Składicze Purnov a medal, but completely forgot about it by the end of the day. That's just my mistake, really. And with this, I close off week 1 of the invasion here at XCOM. I am supremely impressed by the performance of those under my command. 2 operations behind us, and 10 dead aliens later, the future is looking optimistic that we might be evenly matched in this War of the Worlds.